Hello and welcome to Yachting Monthly's how-to series, brought to you in association with GJW Direct. I'm Matthew Sheehan, and over the course of 13 episodes we're going to be dealing with some of the key issues when it comes to maintenance and talking to some of the experts to get their tips.
In this episode we're going to look at what the anode does on our boat, how to check it's working, and how to make sure the key items on your boat are nicely bonded. So we're just going to talk a little bit now about galvanic corrosion. It's a phenomenon that affects the majority of boats out there, and you absolutely don't have to understand the chemistry behind it, but it is good just to have a bit of an understanding so that you know what to look for and how to prevent it attacking your boat. The very simple chemistry of it is that you have two dissimilar metals. So think of a common seacock or other type of through hull. One part of it might be made of bronze or a brass alloy, and another part of it, such as the handle, might be made of stainless steel. If you have those two dissimilar metals, and they must have an electrical connection between them, so be in contact with each other, if they are then in salt water, the salt water acts as an electrolyte, and the less noble of the two metals, in this case the bronze, will corrode. And before too long, you can have a serious leak in your hull. So galvanic corrosion, the decaying of the less noble metal to the more noble metal, is something that we have to protect against. So the simple solution to prevent galvanic corrosion is to add in another metal which is even less noble than the one that might have got corroded. So this is zinc, which is one of the least noble metals of all. This is attached to our hull, possibly also to your prop shaft, your sail drive. Your boat will have a number of different places where it may or may not have a zinc anode, and the zinc becomes the anode rather than the bronze. The zinc decays, and the bronze and the stainless steel, your through hull, your seacock, is prevented from having corrosion. So here we've pulled the boat out now, and we can actually see one of the zinc anodes that we talked about previously. We can see that it's had lots of corrosion to it, which is a good sign. It means that it's been doing its job and it's been corroding rather than the noble metals such as the bronze or the brass alloys on our through hull fittings. When you first pull the boat out, what you're really looking for is to see that that hasn't corroded more than about 50%. The size of the anode is important. You don't need to know more of the science of it, but just if it's corroded more than 50%, you could probably look at upgrading your anodes slightly. So it's quite a simple process now to take off the anode. We've loosened these off 15mm nuts already. Just obviously be careful as you take them off, you're not going to let anything drop off. Although the spring-loaded washers come off with them, good practice is to replace those washers before you put the new one on. This one's got a protective matting behind it, which just protects the hull of the boat as the anode corrodes, so you end up with a nice flat surface. Here's our new anode. There's the protective matting that goes behind it, and then it's a simple matter putting the new anode on, a nice set of new spring-loaded washers, and the nuts. We will usually put a bit of medium strength Loctite onto these nuts before we put them on, which just ensures that they stay in place through the course of the season. It's then just a matter of giving the anode a good tightening up, and we're ready to start looking inside and checking the rest of the bonding system. On the shaft, you'll often find one or two of these anodes here. Very simple mechanism. They come in a split. You put them either side and bolt them up. Again, remembering to use some Loctite or similar thread sealant to make sure they stay on through the course of the season. Again, you're hoping that these anodes will last you through the season, because they're obviously not that easy to replace once the boat's in the water, and they should. That's why we put two of them on usually, so that it lasts through the season. If you're sailing in more brackish water, such as in the Baltic, you may find that your anodes actually not only run out faster, but might need to be switched to magnesium anodes. You might also, it depends on which boat you're on, but you might well also find this skeg plate here has an anode as well, which is another one just to look out for. So here you have a typical keel cooling setup where you have these porous blocks, and this is used for refrigeration, for freezers, and for some generators as well, especially useful if you're sailing in the warmer climates. And you have these porous blocks here through which the refrigerant is passed and the seawater cools it. And these donut anodes here are used to protect the various metal parts of the circuit. They can corrode quite quickly, so it's important to give them a really good check at the start and end of the season. You will see there are two approaches to bonding in the maritime industry. There are those who believe in bonding every metallic item that goes through the hull, and there are those who believe in bonding the minimum number of items. As with anything, if there was a clear right or wrong, it would have been answered. So this is really down to a matter of personal preference. The argument for bonding everything is that if you do have any dissimilar metals or stray current, having every metallic item attached to the zinc will protect it from corrosion. The argument for not bonding every item is that if the items are not prone to corrosion, you are simply giving them a metallic connection to something which is prone to corrosion, and you might be introducing a problem into the system that wasn't there previously. Increasingly, modern day through hulls and mechanical items have got rid of a lot of the problems of dissimilar metal, and that has reduced the problems with galvanic corrosion. So it's very much a matter of picking from your boat and your systems whether you believe the bonding should be to all the items or only to the essential items. So it is possible in a marina environment that there could be stray current in the water, either from their 240 volt system or for another boat's 240 volt system. If there is, your metallic through hulls become a source of danger to you. Your bonding system, if your through hulls are bonded, will also be connected to your negative battery bus bar. This gives a quick and easy route to ground for any stray current, rather than posing a danger to any humans on board who might touch those through hulls. There is also an increasing move towards high strength plastic through hulls, and these obviously negate the need for any type of bonding at all. So here we can see the studs of the anode coming up through the hull. Attached to them is the thick bonding wire, which in this instance connects to the gearbox adapter plate, the item being protected by the anode. Now, it's not enough just to check visually check that the wire is in place, because it could have breaks in it or corrosion in it, which is reducing its effectiveness. So we need to use our multimeter and put it onto the resistance setting or the continuity setting. And we put either probe, it doesn't matter which one, on the stud of the anode, and the other one on the item being protected, in this case the gearbox plate. And we need to see from the multimeter that resistance is 0, or you might hear its audible tone telling you that there's good continuity. Here we can see the resistance is 0, and we know that the item is being well protected by the anode. Now, if there are other items also being bonded, you can simply daisy chain this process. So this time one of the probes will go on the engine that we know is already bonded, and the other probe might go on the through hull that's being bonded. And again, we're just looking for continuity in the process.
Well, thanks for watching. I hope that was of help. Make sure that you like us, make sure that you subscribe to us, and stay in touch for the next episode.